Hello friends, welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we are talking about why not to over-prep for D&D sessions, what the danger is, and how to avoid it. There's one big problem you're going to want to avoid, and I'm going to describe it. You might have experienced this in the past, and if you haven't, well, guess what? I have learned the hard way, so I can tell you all about it. Let's dive in. Now, as a general rule, session prep is great. We want to be prepared. If we go in guns blazing, full improv, this does not necessarily mean we're not going to have a good game, but it does mean that we're going to be less prepared to improvise when things happen. As a general rule, the perfect formula is to do prep work, but then to free yourself to be flexible and improvise. In fact, I made a video detailing this formula right up here. You can click on that. Basically, the three-part framework is prepare, but keep it very simple and very flexible in your execution of the plan. With that being said, there is one big danger that can come from over preparation, and I'm going to share it with you. And I'm also going to tell you how to avoid it. And the reason why I'm thinking about this today is because I am preparing tonight, literally, to run the first session for my new Discord group. We're running a 5-session arc, and it's going to be horror themed, and I am super excited about it. And weird, my camera was acting up. Anyway, I'm super excited about it, and as I'm preparing, I became reminded of mistakes I used to make when I was preparing, and one of the big mistakes is over-preparing. And the danger with over-preparing, here it is that sometimes you can railroad yourself into not being flexible. And let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say that I prepare a whole bunch of stuff. Let's say that I prepare like awesome places. I prepare awesome NPCs the players are going to meet there. Maybe I even prepare a whole bunch of them so I have a shotgun approach and I can introduce whichever ones I want. Maybe I write down a bunch of dialogue. Maybe I write down a bunch of details. Now, this is all good and fine, but over preparing gives you an abundance of information. So, you might type up 5 pages of information. You might type up 10 pages of information, right? You might type up 2 pages of information. Okay, this is all awesome. Preparing enough is a good thing. But when you start to type out pages and pages and pages, you can run into the problem of trying so hard to stick to the stuff that you've prepared and also trying to sort through the stuff you've prepared that you create kind of these awkward gaps. And let me explain what I mean by this. Not too long ago, I actually almost made this mistake in one of my own sessions. I really wanted to prepare for a session, and it was pretty detailed stuff. There was some stuff going on with this particular city that I had homebrewed, and there was a god of illusions who was kind of like the patron deity of the city, and he was going to be messing with the group, and there was going to be a bunch of NPCs who kind of had interwoven storylines. There was a lot of complicated stuff going on, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. But here was my mistake. I decided on these things, and then I decided to write them down before I really made all of those details solidified in my mind. So here's what I mean by that. I was kind of brainstorming this while I was typing it up. But the way that I absorb information and learn information and retain information is not by writing it and then I just remember it. It is by kind of running over it in my mind and sort of doing an internal practice run. For me, the more I think about a session leading into it, not writing down anything, no prep work, taking very minimal notes, maybe, but then I think through it several times. I think through how I want to do it. I kind of think through what things I want there to be, and I think through how I want to present things. And when I think through it a couple times, this really starts to solidify it in my mind. Then if I take notes, I will remember it real well. But I did not do that with this other session. The reason I didn't do it was because I was inspired to do this stuff literally the day of the session. And part of the reason for this was because I was very busy and I had put off session prep until the morning before. Now, this is already landing me in dangerous territory. And in such cases, I usually just decide to go more on improvisation. But this time I wanted to write down a bunch of stuff because I thought to myself, I might just use it. I might just use this cool stuff in my session. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. 10 minutes into the session, I forgot half the stuff I'd written down. I was tempted to rifle through my papers, looking for this, looking for that. I remember I made a note about that. What was that? Looking for that. And if I wasn't careful and I didn't just let go of a lot of the stuff I'd written, I was going to be in serious danger of creating weird, kind of awkward pauses in the gameplay where I was just digging through my notes looking for what I was going to say next. And I was also going to risk messing up a kind of complicated storyline that, to be honest, was probably too complicated for the amount of prep time I did spend on it. I should have way simplified it. And that's what I actually ended up doing. I ended up like not even using 9 of the 10 pages I prepared. And this reminded me of a very important lesson. And it comes back down to like session prep and what is actually required. My belief is that sessions run best when you run them on 20% preparation and about 80% improvisation. But what do you want to prepare? This is a really important question. What you want to prepare is just a couple goals. And I keep this very simple. I keep this very, very simple. I want to prepare like 3 to 5 things that I want to show the players. Doesn't matter what they do. These things could be shown to them anywhere. There may be clues. Maybe an NPC walks up to them. Maybe they see a sign somewhere. These things could happen anywhere. But I want to set up some super easy to reach kind of objective things of what I want to show them. And that's just to set up player arcs and character arcs. By the way, if you tend to struggle with player arcs, setting up your own arcs, rolling plot arcs willy-nilly whenever you need them, you should download my Ultimate Plot Randomizer. This is a free ebook. If you sign up for my email list, you will get this in your first email delivered for free. You can download it, print it out, keep it with your stuff. Roll awesome plot arcs on 4 D100 tables. Roll the hook, conflict, conclusion, and wild wacky stuff all right there. Bam, bam, bam. You will have plot hooks for days and days and days, and you'll never run out. I offer this for free, and I love to use it, and I hope that it will help you, and you should download it. With that being said, in addition to some very simple things I want to show the group, I come up with one goal for the session. I only want one goal. One goal. See, I was trying to accomplish like 6 or 7 goals when I wrote out those 10 pages of prep work. And this was honestly a rookie mistake. I should not have done this. I should have known better. And I caught myself. I was able to kind of just veer away from it and launch into improv because I was like, you know what? Throw papers in air. I forgot what I was doing anyway because I didn't put enough mental work into this. Writing it down is not the same as being mentally prepared for it. Not all GMs are like that. That's just how I am. But I'm saying this is how I inform my process. And so I want to plan one thing, just one thing that's the objective. A lot of times that'll be a combat of some kind, or it will be some kind of like in-depth role play thing, like a conversation with a key NPC where they get vital information or something like that. Or maybe an exploration phase where they locate an artifact or whatever it is. The key kind of story part, the key thing I want to present to the players as the challenge, the thing to do, this is going to be the objective. Now, you want to make the objective flexible. This is very important. You got to make it flexible. You can't over prep this either. If you over prep this, you'll run the risk of railroading yourself, trying to cram details in that maybe don't fit with the natural flow. Let's say, for example, that you plan for them to throw down with your mid-level villain at the tavern because the mid-level villain is there drinking and notices them and comes at them. But what if they never go to the tavern? What if you, being the awesome GM you are, give them player agency and they instead choose to go out into the woods and hunt for game? They say, we don't trust this village. We're going to go camp out in the woods and we're going to hunt. Now I have this mid-level villain. I can still present them with this. If I'm very flexible, I can have them run into this villain out in the woods. This is okay. This takes away from the sandboxiness of it. However, if you're running a storyline campaign and not a total sandbox campaign, this works out. For all of you hardcore sandboxers, don't worry. I'll get to you in future videos. I believe in sandboxing, but if you're trying to run a storyline, sometimes you've got to leave the sandbox behind. Please don't hate me. And so I can present my mid-level villain. They can fight that mid-level villain in the woods, in the tavern, in the cave, or in the sky, or at the bottom of the ocean for all I care, because I want to prep that one like objective for the group. I want to plan it very flexibly. I don't want to put a whole bunch of parameters on it where I have to kind of cram things in and railroad it, because here's the danger to me as a GM. Now, obviously I don't want to railroad the players, but we know this at this point. And that's not even what this video is about, not railroading players. This is about not railroading yourself. This is about not trapping yourself into a storyline that's so complicated or contains so many moving parts that if you deviate from it, you will get lost. And so you try to cram yourself into that framework. You tried to do the right thing. You tried to prepare to make it the best session ever. Unfortunately, things do not always go as planned. And so as GMs, we want to not over prepare. And this maybe sounds counterintuitive, but we do not want to over prepare. If you want to over prepare, get really in the know, like get to know your NPCs in your mind, get to know your maps in your mind, get to know what people are like in that village in your mind, get to know what that evil guy, evil sorceress, your mid-level villain, your big bad, figure out so intimately what this villain believes in that you can ad-lib the different dialogue that may come up when the conversation does not go how you planned, or if they do not meet where you planned. This is true immersion through practice. I have to do this in my mind. If I just try to write things, this does not help me. I do want to take notes so I don't forget things like clues, but when it comes to the nature of the villain, when it comes to the way people act when they see the party, when it comes to how those goblins will react when they see strangers approaching their camp, all of these things are things that rather than writing them down, I want to rehearse them in my mind, and I want to get to know the moving parts the players are going to be interacting with in a more functional way. And this helps me to then be prepared for any situation. And I prepare very simply, very, very simply. Keep preparations very simple. Do not over prepare, and you will avoid railroading yourself into some kind of disaster. And that leads into another conversation about how things like random tables, random encounter tables, like the ebook I just mentioned a little while ago, are so crucial and important because they give us tools that we can use to turn an unknown in a situation into something unique, into something that nobody was expecting, into something surprising. And so this is partly why I love D100 tables. For example, in my upcoming session, I'm going to be rolling all of my loot on my Ultimate Dungeon Loot Randomizer. This book contains 10 D100 tables. Roll weapons and armor, cool, unique weapons and armor. Roll individual pieces of treasure, magic scrolls, magic weapons and armor, cursed items, entire treasure chests, otherworldly relics, all kinds of stuff. You can random roll it, put your own creative spin on it, and then you can present it to your players consistent with their power level, tweaked and given the abilities and stats that you want for your party. Works awesome. This is my new favorite tool for randomly generating loot. And if you'd like to pick it up and give it a try, it's available on my Blurb bookstore. Link is down in the description. You can buy it in hardcover or in a much more very affordable digital ebook version. Grab that to random roll loot, make it awesome. At the end of the day, it's important to ask yourself, why are you running games? Why do you want to be the GM? Why are you the GM? What is your goal as a GM? Of course, we want to run great games for our players. We do. We want to run them. We want to make our games so much fun that the players love them. We want to create an immersive storytelling adventure where everyone is creating intellectual art and where you are facilitating the telling, the narrating of these characters, these player characters' unique character arcs and their adventures. Always remember that they are the story. We are only supplying a few little bits for them to interact with. We're supplying the pixels that appear around them, but they are the center point of the camera of the imaginative narrative. And when we think about this and we make them the focal point, this is going to empower us to make the most fun adventure. But for you as a GM, you should get to have fun too. And part of that means creating cool story elements. And and this sounds so counterintuitive, but when we avoid the temptation to over prepare and we keep it so simple, so flexible, just a couple little elements, planning to stick those in there, couple little things up our sleeve. Let the player characters do the rest. Let them drive the narrative. This is when your games are going to become chef's kiss. You'll become your player's favorite GM. You'll be the kind of GM who has 25 people always waiting in line, bugging you to want to play in your games, trying to break into your house when you're running games and jump into your games and trying to throw dice at you and trying to give you gifts so that you'll invite them to your games and all this crazy stuff. You will be the type of GM that everyone wants to play with when you adopt these principles, when you make the characters the focal point of the game, when you allow them to create the narrative they want. And a lot of this is so helpfully facilitated by not over preparing. And I know I'm going to say this again at the risk of sounding like a broken record. It sounds very counterintuitive, but this is a lesson that I have learned hard many times in my gaming life, and I'm imparting it to you because you're awesome and you deserve it. All right. With that being said, that's going to be it for this one. Hey, jump in my Discord. We're in there all the time creating awesome stuff. If you love Discord and you love TTRPGs, jump in and hang out with us. We would love to have you. That's going to be a wrap for this one. Hey, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining me for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm here every morning creating videos about the best game in the world, D&D. So I will see you awesome people on the next one.